As you know, I'm currently on a mission to change my life over the next 12 months. And I want to share some things that I've been doing this week that are going to get me on course to do that. One of the first things that I'm going to be focusing on tackling, and to be honest, this is going to be ongoing throughout the next 12 months. And I think one of my strongest suits, but not necessarily something I'm massively consistent with, or perhaps something I don't put my energy in the right places with, is organization. If you ask anyone who knows me, they will all call me extremely organized. I'm very good at making a spreadsheet, I'm very good at making a list, I'm very good at ticking things off, but I'm not good at remembering when people's birthdays are. I'm not good at staying on top of my laundry. I'm not good at like those other things in life that require you to be organized. But I do feel that in order for me to achieve all of the other goals that I've outset, at the start of this 12 months, I need to really get this fixed and focus on doing some small things that are going to make being organized feel a lot easier. And there are some things that I've already implemented that I think are working really well that I want to share with you that hopefully you can take away and get some benefits from as well. Before we start, though, with those specific things that I've been doing, I just want to talk about what being disorganized means and defining what it means to be organized. Because when we think of an organized person, I know that a lot of us might be thinking someone that's got lots of notebooks with lists in them and color coordinated folders and stuff like that. But this isn't kind of what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that because actually, on the surface, I look like that type of person. But actually, the organization that I'm talking about isn't the organization that looks great. I'm talking about the organization that makes you feel good. Specifically, feeling calmer, feeling more in control, feeling less stressed. They're the ways that I want to feel more organized, not like I've got a million things on my shoulders that I need to try and keep track of and remember. I guess we all probably have our own feelings about what disorganization feels like. For me, it's not necessarily, although it does come into it, it's not necessarily a messy house and like incomprehensible notes and stuff like that. It's more feeling like I've got an overloaded brain and not knowing, what's next, having a clenched jaw and a furrowed eyebrow and like shoulders up to my ears. That's kind of what being disorganized feels like for me, because being disorganized makes me feel very stressed, and that's where it kind of starts for me. And hopefully you'll relate to this. There are a few things that can trigger this feeling, and this is what I mentioned earlier. It's not necessarily about a messy house, but for me, a messy house definitely does trigger this. Not even a messy house, just things not being where they're supposed to be, or lots of things being left on the side. I find that really, really triggering, and makes me feel very stressed and disorganized. Um, a busy diary, particularly with lots of obligations of me having to be present in places. I don't mind like having a big long list of things I need to get done, because I can almost kind of manage my energy levels there and go, oh, okay, well, I'll do this at the start of the day because I've got 100% energy, and that'll work for me to do it then. Or I know that that takes the average person 20 minutes, but I could probably do a good job of that in 10 minutes. Stuff like that, I feel very okay with. But a busy diary in terms of I need to be somewhere at a certain time to meet a certain person to discuss a certain thing, if there's too much going on in that respect, I find that very stressful, and it makes me feel very disorganized, because I kind of have to Tetris everything into those times, and yeah, it makes my days feel a little bit more stressful. I prefer to just bang everything out and get it done so that I can just relax. Whereas stuff like that means you've kind of got to hang around a little bit, and then the time feels a little bit more dead in between. Hope I'm making sense with that. Um, Not feeling caught up in my own life makes me feel very disorganized, and I think that comes from spending a lot of time at work and doing other obligations outside of work as well that take up a lot of your time. And then because you're not caught up on everything that you should be, like your laundry, like the washing up, the housework and stuff like that, you then get this overriding low hum of guilt in the background that just makes you feel a bit crap, to be honest with you. The way that I liken it to is just kind of skimming the surface of your life all the time, never really truly diving deep into any aspect of your life, just kind of vaguely touching every part and just saying, yeah, I'm here, I fixed that, and never getting to the root cause of a problem or a thing that needs sorting and sorting it out properly. Nothing feels technically wrong with this, which is why it just seems to kind of go along unnoticed for so long. Um, but if you have this sense of just feeling vaguely awful all the time, or just not quite right all the time, that's the way that I feel. Now, you might be wondering, and you might hopefully relate to all of the things that I've just run through. Um, but I guess it's important for us to know the root causes of where those things and where those feelings and where those symptoms are coming from. Um, and some of these are going to sound a little bit harsh, and I'm talking about myself here as well, not just anyone else. But number one is that you just lack discipline. You just don't seem to have what it takes in order to organize your life properly and get things done. You're prioritizing other tasks that aren't important. Number two, and I think this is probably true for most of us, you genuinely have too much on your plate. There's just too much going on every day, and you're struggling to fit it all in. And you're struggling to make priorities out of any of them because they all feel like priorities in the moment. The third thing is that your space, your home, whatever environment you find yourself in, your working environment maybe, isn't set up for success. You are battling the space that you're working in to try and fit it into the type of person that you want to be, but ultimately it's just not working. Lastly, and this one kind of relates a little bit to the environment that you're currently finding yourself in, but it's that your systems that you are currently living with aren't set up to work with the way that your brain operates. So, how do you fix that? And it's not a one answer question. There are lots of different things that you can do in order to fix that. And I've been working on some of those things this week. So, this is what I've been doing. Number one, I have been resetting my physical zones in the house, not the whole house, just some areas of it. And the reason that I'm doing just some areas of it rather than the entire house is because that's too overwhelming. You know, I will always try and make sure that the whole house gets a clean every single week. But obviously, life tends to happen, and those high footfall spaces, like your kitchen, like your living room, like your bedroom, tend to pile up with lots of stuff as you move through the week, regardless of if you cleaned it at the beginning of the week or at the weekend or whatever. So I've made it my mission to make sure that those areas are tidy as much as possible throughout the week. The reason I've chosen those three areas, as I say, they're high footfall, they are where I spend the majority of my time. And the reason that I've chosen to try and keep them as tidy as possible is because when there is mess around me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but when there is mess around me, I just can't focus and function. All I can think about is the mess that's around me, and it makes me feel stressed, disorganized, guilty, because I feel like if I'm relaxing, I should be cleaning instead because it's a mess around here. So just by taking a few minutes a day, and it truly is a few minutes, and this is why it's so good, I can tidy those spaces up. Take any rubbish out, take any cups and stuff out, put them in the dishwasher, run the hoover around if there's some stuff on the floor, fluff the pillows. These things take, I'm not joking, 2 to 3 minutes a day, and they have made my day feel exponentially better. So if I was to give a takeaway to you, it would be that you should try and choose 1 to 3 rooms in your house, depending on how big your house is or where you spend the majority of your time, and really focus on just spending up to 5 minutes a day making sure that this space is clean and tidy and makes you feel good. Even if it's just wiping down the sides and then lighting a candle, or just throwing the rubbish in the bin, or taking your cups out to the dishwasher or to the sink at the end of the day. Like, little things like that can just make a massive difference. The second thing that I've been doing, and this is a little bit more niche, I guess, but it's that I've been using a planning tool and a planning system that's actually realistic for me. When I say realistic for me, I know that everyone plans differently, and everyone, they work in different ways. Some people work really well writing things down on paper. Some people work better using apps and things like that. Um, as I said at the start, I'm really good at on the surface organization. I could make a Notion page all day for you that, will get your life in order. It's just using it that seems to be the challenge for me. So what I've done is made myself a really straightforward, simple tool where I can list all of my tasks out for the day, um, give them a priority. I can put a time next to them as to how long I feel that that task is going to take. And then the system that I've created basically adds all of that up for me and tells me whether that's realistic or not, whether that's actually going to fit into my day. Because I think one of the key things that we often do is overload ourselves without realizing. So you might give yourself 12 hours of work to do when you've only got actually 6 hours available. And then when you don't complete all of those tasks at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'm so rubbish. You feel like a failure, right? So this helps me go, no, you never had the time to do all this stuff to begin with. So let's reprioritize. Now, for you, you don't obviously need my tool specifically. You clearly can plan in whatever way works best for you. But finding something that helps you be brutally honest in the tasks that you have to perform today and getting you to perform them and tick them off is the key thing here. Because if you can do all the little things that you remember in the day, I mean, even watering the plants or hanging the laundry on the line, stuff like that. I've been putting things like that on my list. And it sounds silly, but the amount of times I've put washing in the washing machine and then sat down and then 11 o'clock at night thought, oh my God, I forgot to put that on the line or in the tumble dryer or whatever. And then you're like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or it's just a big catastrophe at midnight and you need to go and sort it out. So little things like that help keep you on track. They're little reminders throughout the day that you can tick off. And then when it comes to the evening, you can just sit down like relieved because you know that you've ticked everything off your list for today. And the stuff that didn't fit in today, you knew that at the start of the day and you've already planned it in for tomorrow. So yeah, this has been really, really helping me this week into really just cranking out some jobs that I needed to get done and getting them done and feeling more relaxed in the evenings. On the back of this, I've been doing something else. I've been calling the one touch policy. I'm sure it's probably known as something similar anyway, but that is rather than keeping touching something, and when I say touching something, I mean a task that I need to do, rather than picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, just pick it up once as soon as you realize it needs to be done and just do it. Majority of the time, it takes a couple of minutes. Let's say there's some washing up that's on the side that needs to go into the dishwasher. I can either keep looking at that every 20 minutes and stressing myself out all day with it, or I can just get it done and it takes under 5 minutes and then it's done. And this kind of can be the same for any task that you've been putting off. Majority of the time, you'll find that the thing that you've been putting off the most wasn't that hard and only took a few minutes. So, yeah, if I know it's going to take under 5 minutes, then I will do it immediately rather than just keep looking at it or keep picking it up and putting it back down again. Another thing I like to do with this, specifically with this one touch policy, is, and this maybe sounds a bit loserish, I don't know, but I like to time myself and see how long these things actually take me. I feel like it gamifies the task a little bit. So if it's something really boring, like I've been using putting stuff in the dishwasher as an example, that is a boring task that we all have to do every day, or we have to wash up, one of the two. There is nothing motivating about doing it apart from the fact that you need some clean dishes, right? So gamifying that task for me makes it feel a little bit more exciting. On top of that, gamifying and timing myself to load the dishwasher has been quite eye opening in terms of how long it genuinely takes me. Sometimes you look at the side and it's full of dishes and you're like, oh my God, it's such a mess in here. This is going to take ages to clean up. And then you time yourself and you find out how long it genuinely takes. I'm not joking. This week it's taken me no longer than 5 minutes every single time, even when the side is like full of dishes and pots and pans and stuff. So, yeah, making a fun game out of the monotony of life is also a really good thing to do. The next one is a bit of an eye roll, I know, and everyone's telling you to do it, but they're telling you for a reason, and that is to get off your phone. I have been really, really trying with this week, to just stay off my phone as much as possible, specifically on some apps. And you know the culprits, your TikToks, your Instagrams, anything that has the ability for you to scroll through and be entertained constantly is what I've been trying to stay off of. And when I'm consuming content, I'm really trying my best to consume longer form content like YouTube videos, like articles, stuff like that. So I'm still learning, I'm still in the loop, I'm not missing out on what's going on in the world, but my attention span is thanking me. The thing about scrolling is it feels like rest. It feels like you're just relaxing on the sofa, having a little scroll. It's pretty harmless, but you don't need me to tell you how many times have you done that and then realized it's an hour later and you've done nothing apart from sit there and scroll. And worse than that, after you've finished scrolling, you feel like rubbish. Like you just feel tired and drained and you don't know what to do with yourself. And more often than not, you'll go, I don't know what to do. And you just pick your phone up and carry on scrolling because it feels good. And there's a reason for that. When you go on your phone, I mean, I'm no expert, do your own research, but I've done a lot of reading up on this. And scrolling essentially ruins your dopamine reward system. So every time you scroll, you're instantly satisfied. And as soon as you lose interest with that, you scroll again and you can be instantly satisfied. And it just kind of repeats over and over and over again. And you give yourself little dopamine releases every single time you scroll to a new video. So every 30 seconds or so, you're hit with another boost of dopamine. Dopamine isn't supposed to be built like that. It's supposed to be built with you performing longer tasks that build up over time, that then culminate in an end result that makes you feel very happy. Something like cooking a meal for your family or friends that takes an hour and then they all eat it at the end and they're all very happy and it makes you feel good. Or cleaning your car and it's very dirty to start with and you clean it and you spend an hour or two on it and at the end it's very clean and you can feel this overwhelming sense of happiness that you have done a good job. Scrolling on any app that provides instant gratification like that ruins that. So when you do need to do bigger tasks that require a lot of brain power, you don't have the ability to want to do them. They feel very unfulfilling. They're not giving you an instant reward, so they make you not want to do them. I genuinely noticed that I had so much more headspace the minute I chose to stop going on these apps. And the way that I did that is I've got an app on my phone called Opal, and you can choose the apps that you want to block at specific hours of the day, and it blocks those apps. You can unblock them if you want to. There's just a bit of friction in doing so. So it just takes you a little bit longer to unblock them. And by that point, hopefully, you've had a bit of a realization like, I don't need to go on that app. So it definitely does help. I know people buy things like bricks and you can brick your phone. And once your phone is bricked, you can't get on any of the apps that you've chosen to brick. So it's pretty similar. But ultimately, you don't need to delete these apps. You just need to notice when you're reaching for your phone out of habit rather than actually needing your phone. Um, and see what happens when you do actually stop doing this. I've spent no more than 15 minutes per day on all of these apps combined all week, and it has genuinely made such a difference to my week. I've got so much more done. And on top of that, it's made me feel so much better. Last but not least, I have been making it my mission to actually try to decompress a little bit, specifically from my workday. I mentioned it in my previous video. My work is very, very heavy on my mental load, and I lose a lot of headspace from work. I have a lot of meetings, a lot of back to back video calls, and it can really, really drain your mental clarity. So instead of powering through, which is what I've tried to do previously, and then crashed and burned and then felt guilty because I didn't do what I told myself I was going to do, I've actually just been giving myself the time to decompress from the day for a specific length of time. What I've been doing this week is I have been finishing work for the day. I usually finish around 5ish, something like that. Immediately come downstairs and take the dog for a walk, because this has just been such a good way for me to say that's the end of the workday. This is the start of my evening now. The dog's happy, obviously. I get to go out and see the sunshine, the rain, the wind, whatever's going on, and quite literally touch grass. And it kind of gives me that pause that the workday is finished. Then I come back from that, I make myself a cup of tea, and I go into the living room and I watch a comfort show of whatever I'm currently watching. I mean, at the minute, I'm currently watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I don't want to hear anything from anyone about that, and I will hear no slander on Buffy. So that is what I've been doing. And that's kind of 45 minutes of just, giving myself the time to relax, watching a long form piece of content like a TV show with a cup of tea. Phone is still in the other room. I'm not checking on stuff. I'm just spending some time with myself, watching something that I enjoy. And it really gives me some good headspace away from the day. After I've done that, then I'll think about making dinner. It's approaching kind of 6 o'clock. and yeah, I can think about what I'm going to eat and, getting into my evening properly. This way, this is not wasted time. It's a hard line between workday finishing and my personal life starting, and has made a massive difference in my energy levels in the evening, my mood in the evening, reducing this feeling of guilt that I'm not being productive because I've had my little pause. So I feel good and I've kind of rejuvenated myself after the workday. Um, and then in the evening, I've got time to do what I want to do, whether that's personal projects, making a nice dinner, going and do something with a friend or with my partner. And yeah, it just makes life feel a little bit nicer. Your version of this doesn't need to look like mine. You might not like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I don't know how you couldn't, but you might not. You might not have a dog, but you can find some version of this that's going to work for you, whether it's still going for a walk, but just by yourself, or meeting up with a friend for coffee, or going and sitting in your garden if the weather is nice for half an hour, or your balcony, or just by the window if you don't have any of those things. Making yourself a nice cup of tea or coffee, or maybe a nice soft drink, taking some time to breathe, leaving your phone in the other room, reading a book for half an hour. Any of these things will be really good in resetting your mental clarity after a long work day. They are the things that I've been doing this week. As a bit of a recap, resetting a few zones of your house rather than the entire house every week is a good place to start, and it makes you feel good. Planning realistically what you need to get done for the day rather than aspirationally and trying to cram everything in. Touching tasks once rather than leaving them all to build up and feeling stressed about it. Cutting the mindless scrolling so you're not just scrolling all day every day and then wondering why you feel like rubbish. And building a decompression routine between work and home life, especially if you work from home, is really important. And these things have all really helped me this week, and I'll be continuing them for the next 12 months. Potentially, they might change along the way. They might find different iterations along the way, and we might add to them along the way. But they've been a really good place for me to start in making me feel a lot better and getting closer to my goals, because now that I feel better in my mind space and I feel like I've got more mental clarity and I feel like things are more organized, I now have space to look at my personal projects that I want to achieve and start putting plans in place to getting them done. If you've tried any of these this week, then let me know in the comments. I want to know what worked for you and what didn't, or what your version of these look like. And then, yeah, we can all share and see what works best for all of us. Thank you, as always, for watching. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe. It really, really does help as a brand new little channel. And I will see you in the next one.